7 minutes ago, the internet practically froze. Phones buzzed, timelines exploded, and fans are shocked beyond words as whispers turned into a full-blown digital wildfire. Just when everyone thought the long, messy saga had finally gone quiet, a single name ripped the silence apart: Rasheeda. After months of tight-lipped restraint and carefully chosen smiles, she finally spoke, and what she revealed sent shockwaves straight through the heart of reality TV history. Emotions ran high, receipts were allegedly pulled, and a bombshell claim surfaced that no one saw coming. Because according to sources lighting up social media, Kirk Frost may have crossed a line that even his most loyal defenders can't explain away. A new marriage. A secret ceremony. A move so bold it left friends stunned and the family divided. The rumors alone were enough to set fans on edge, but Rasheeda's reaction is what truly changed everything. Picture this: the cameras are off, the room is quiet, and the weight of years of betrayal hangs thick in the air. Then Rasheeda opens her mouth, her voice calm but razor sharp, and says the one thing no one expected. In that moment, insiders say, everything shifted. This wasn't just another rumor. This wasn't another messy headline. This was personal. And once those words hit the airwaves, there was no turning back. Fans are shocked not just by what was said, but by how it was said. No screaming. No table flipping. Just controlled emotion, simmering beneath the surface, hinting at pain that never truly healed. Was this the final straw? Or the beginning of an even darker chapter? As reactions poured in, some rushed to defend Kirk, insisting there had to be more to the story. Others stood firmly with Rasheeda, saying her silence for so long made this moment even more powerful. And then came the twist, because while everyone was focused on the alleged new marriage, another detail slipped through the cracks. A detail that suggests this drama may have been building behind the scenes for much longer than anyone realized. Friends allegedly knew. Family members allegedly warned her. And now, with the truth, or at least Rasheeda's truth, finally out, the question on everyone's mind is chillingly simple. If this is what she's willing to say out loud, what is she still holding back? Stay right here, because this story escalates fast. What was revealed next left even longtime fans speechless, and by the end, the fallout may change everything you thought you knew about this relationship forever. The silence after Rasheeda spoke was heavier than any argument they had ever shared. People close to the situation say the room felt frozen, like everyone knew something irreversible had just happened. She didn't cry. She didn't raise her voice. Instead, she sat back, folded her arms, and let years of frustration finally breathe. She said she had been carrying the truth for so long that it started to feel normal, and that was the part that scared her the most. She revealed that the rumors about Kirk didn't start 7 minutes ago or even 7 days ago. They started months earlier, whispered through phone calls that ended too quickly and text messages that didn't sound like him. At first, she told herself she was imagining it. She said she had done that before, convinced herself that loyalty would eventually win. But this time, something felt different, and the more she tried to ignore it, the louder the truth became. According to Rasheeda, the first real crack came during what was supposed to be a quiet family dinner. Kirk arrived late, barely touched his food, and kept checking his phone. She asked him who kept calling, and he brushed it off with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. She said that smile haunted her later because it was the same smile he used in the past when he was hiding something. Emotions ran high that night, even though no one raised their voice. The tension spoke louder than words. She claimed that days later, a mutual friend pulled her aside and asked a question that changed everything. The friend asked, "So how do you feel about Kirk moving on so fast?" Rasheeda said she laughed at first, thinking it was a joke, until she realized the friend was dead serious. Fans are shocked hearing this part because it suggests that others knew before she did. That realization cut deeper than any headline ever could. Rasheeda said she confronted Kirk calmly, giving him every chance to explain. She described the moment as surreal, like watching herself from the outside. She asked him directly if there was another woman, if there was another life he was building without her. Kirk allegedly denied everything, swearing on family, faith, and the future they once planned together. For a brief moment, she wanted to believe him. She said hope can be dangerous when it's built on old promises. Then came the alleged proof. Rasheeda said a message landed in her inbox from someone she had never met. No long introduction, no apology, just a single sentence claiming Kirk was already married. At first, she thought it was fake, a cruel attempt to stir drama. But when she looked closer, details lined up too perfectly. Dates, locations, conversations only Kirk could have had. She said her hands shook as she read it, not out of fear, but out of clarity. What followed was not explosive, according to her, but deeply emotional. She said she locked herself in her room and replayed years of memories, wondering where she had ignored the signs. She talked about sleepless nights, staring at the ceiling, questioning whether loyalty had made her strong or simply silent. She admitted that part of her blamed herself for staying through past betrayals, even though she knew that blame wasn't fair. When she finally confronted Kirk again, the conversation reportedly turned cold. No yelling, no tears, just two people speaking from opposite sides of a broken bridge. She asked him one last time to tell her the truth. She said his pause before answering told her everything she needed to know. Even without a confession, she felt the confirmation settle in her chest. The family was left divided from that moment on. Friends reacted quickly once whispers became public. Some rallied around Rasheeda, praising her strength and patience, saying she had given more chances than anyone should. Others stayed quiet, unsure which side to stand on. Fans flooded social media with theories, screenshots, and emotional messages, many saying they felt betrayed right along with her. The public reaction became impossible to ignore, and with every hour, the story grew more intense. Rasheeda said the hardest part wasn't the idea of Kirk being with someone else. It was the feeling that her life had been edited without her consent, like she was the last to know about her own story. She spoke about protecting her children from the chaos, choosing her words carefully at home while the outside world speculated freely. She said motherhood forced her to stay composed even when her heart wanted to scream. She also addressed the alleged new marriage, saying she never imagined hearing those words attached to the man she once trusted completely. She questioned how vows could be spoken so easily when others were still standing in the wreckage of old ones. She didn't claim to know every detail, but she said she knew enough to stop pretending everything was fine. That decision, she admitted, was terrifying but necessary. As the days passed, Kirk's silence became its own statement. Rasheeda said that sometimes the absence of denial speaks louder than any confession. She described watching interviews, posts, and reactions, trying to read between the lines. Every vague message felt intentional, every smile suspicious. Fans are shocked by how quickly opinions shifted, with many saying they could no longer excuse the pattern they had once defended. Rasheeda made it clear that this wasn't about revenge or embarrassment. She said it was about reclaiming her voice after years of choosing peace over truth. She acknowledged that the public would judge her decisions, question her timing, and debate her motives. But she said speaking now felt like survival, not strategy. The emotional weight of her words left listeners stunned, especially when she admitted she still loved the version of Kirk she thought existed. She said letting go of that image was harder than letting go of the man himself. That confession resonated deeply, with fans sharing their own stories of holding on to memories that no longer matched reality. By the end of her statement, it was clear that this was only the beginning. Unresolved questions lingered in the air, and the tension between what was said and what was still hidden felt almost unbearable. Rasheeda hinted that there were more details she wasn't ready to share yet, moments that would make people understand why her silence lasted so long. As the story continued to unfold, one thing became undeniable: the calm before the storm didn't hit all at once. It crept in through side comments, late-night conversations, and reactions that felt too rehearsed to be accidental. Rasheeda said that once she spoke out, people who had been silent suddenly found their voices. Messages started coming in from unexpected places, some filled with support, others carrying half-truths that only added to the confusion. She described it as opening a door she had kept locked for years and realizing how many people had been standing outside, watching the whole time. She revealed that one conversation in particular stayed with her. A longtime friend, someone who had defended Kirk publicly for years, finally admitted they had suspected something was off. Not proof, not confirmation, just a feeling they had ignored out of loyalty. Hearing that hurt more than she expected. She said it confirmed her fear that the truth had been floating around her life while she was the last one to grab it. The family was left divided even further after that admission. Rasheeda talked about the pressure of being watched while hurting. Every move she made became a headline, every expression analyzed. She said there were days she wanted to disappear completely, to exist outside of public opinion and cameras. But she also knew that silence had cost her too much already. Emotions ran high when she admitted she had confused strength with endurance for far too long. Behind closed doors, the conversations with Kirk allegedly grew shorter and colder. She said they spoke like strangers negotiating the end of something neither of them knew how to save. She accused him of rewriting history, minimizing her pain, and framing the situation as something that simply happened. She said that hurt almost as much as the betrayal itself, because it stripped her experience of meaning. She also addressed the rumors that she had known about the new marriage for longer than she admitted. Rasheeda denied that firmly, saying if she had known earlier, she would not have protected his image the way she did. She explained that loyalty made her quiet, not complicit. Fans are shocked by that distinction, with many saying it forced them to rethink moments they once criticized her for staying silent. As the story spread, reactions from extended family reportedly poured in. Some urged her to keep things private, warning her about backlash and judgment. Others encouraged her to keep speaking, reminding her that her truth mattered even if it made people uncomfortable. Rasheeda said navigating those voices felt like walking through a maze with no clear exit. Every choice came with consequences she had to carry alone. She opened up about the emotional toll on her children, saying that was the part she guarded most fiercely. She refused to let the chaos define their sense of family, even if it meant swallowing her own anger at times. She said she chose her words carefully at home, keeping explanations simple and honest without feeding the fire. That balancing act, she admitted, drained her more than public criticism ever could. Rasheeda also spoke about faith, saying it had been both her refuge and her struggle. She questioned how forgiveness fits into self-respect, and whether healing always requires reconciliation. Those questions didn't come with answers, only reflections. She said she was learning that closure doesn't always arrive wrapped in apologies. Sometimes it comes through acceptance, even when the truth still hurts. Meanwhile, Kirk's alleged actions continued to fuel speculation. Vague statements, selective appearances, and carefully worded posts kept fans guessing. Rasheeda said watching that unfold felt like witnessing someone perform damage control rather than accountability. She clarified that she wasn't asking the public to choose sides, but she refused to let her reality be rewritten to make others more comfortable. Friends noticed a shift in her energy during this time. She described feeling lighter in moments, even while grieving. Speaking her truth, she said, felt like setting down a heavy bag she had been carrying for years. The pain didn't vanish, but it no longer owned her. Fans responded strongly to that sentiment, sharing messages about choosing themselves after long periods of silence. She acknowledged that not everyone believed her, and she made peace with that. Rasheeda said disbelief was something she had lived with privately for years, so facing it publicly didn't scare her. What mattered was that she finally believed herself. That realization marked a turning point she hadn't expected but deeply needed. As tensions remained unresolved, Rasheeda hinted that the story wasn't finished. She suggested there were conversations, timelines, and decisions yet to be revealed, ones that would explain why this chapter unfolded the way it did. She didn't threaten or tease for attention, but her tone made it clear that the full truth had layers still untouched. By the time her words settled with listeners, the atmosphere felt charged with anticipation. Fans are shocked not just by the allegations, but by the calm strength behind her delivery. The drama was no longer just about betrayal or rumors of a new marriage. It had become a story about voice, boundaries, and the cost of staying silent for too long. And as the tension lingered in the air, one thing was clear to everyone watching closely. Whatever comes next will only deepen the divide, and the emotional fallout is far from over. The divide became impossible to ignore as days turned into weeks and the tension refused to cool down. Rasheeda said she could feel the shift not just online, but in real life, in rooms where conversations suddenly stopped when she walked in. She explained that betrayal has a strange way of isolating the person who was hurt instead of the one who caused the pain. That realization didn't break her, but it hardened her resolve to stop carrying guilt that wasn't hers. She shared that one night, long after the noise of social media died down, Kirk finally tried to explain himself in a way that felt different. Not apologetic, not defensive, just tired. She said he spoke about feeling misunderstood, about pressure, about mistakes that spiraled faster than he could control. She listened quietly, not because she agreed, but because she wanted to hear him without interrupting for once. When he finished, she told him that understanding his feelings did not erase her pain. That moment, she said, felt like the real end of something they had been pretending to save. Rasheeda admitted that walking away emotionally was harder than staying ever was. Staying had rules, patterns, and familiarity. Leaving meant stepping into uncertainty with no guarantee of peace. She said people often underestimate how comforting dysfunction can feel when it's all you've known. Fans are shocked when she says that out loud, because it exposes a truth many avoid admitting about their own relationships. As speculation about the alleged new marriage continued, Rasheeda addressed the humiliation factor directly. She said embarrassment was never her biggest fear. Losing herself was. She explained that pride can be rebuilt, But self-respect is harder to recover once it's abandoned. That distinction guided every decision she made after speaking out. Even when rumors exaggerated details or twisted timelines, she refused to correct everything, choosing instead to protect her energy. She described a moment when she realized the narrative no longer belonged to her alone. Bloggers, commentators, and strangers filled in gaps with their own assumptions. Some painted her as a victim, others as someone who stayed too long by choice. Rasheeda said both versions felt incomplete. She wasn't powerless, and she wasn't foolish. She was human, navigating love, loyalty, and betrayal in real time. The emotional toll surfaced in unexpected ways. She talked about waking up exhausted despite sleeping, about feeling emotionally raw over small things. A song on the radio, a familiar place, a memory she hadn't revisited in years could suddenly knock the air out of her. She said healing didn't move in a straight line, and anyone who claimed it did had probably never been hurt deeply enough. Friends became her anchor during this phase. She recalled late-night phone calls filled with laughter and tears, moments where she could drop the strong exterior and just be honest. Those conversations reminded her that she was more than a headline or a storyline. She said community saved her when isolation tried to convince her she was alone. Rasheeda also addressed the criticism that accused her of using the situation for attention. She didn't deny that visibility came with consequences, but she rejected the idea that speaking her truth was a calculated move. She said silence had benefited everyone except her, and she refused to sacrifice herself for the comfort of others any longer. Emotions ran high when she stated that choosing herself was not selfish, it was overdue. As time passed, Kirk's presence in her life shifted from central to distant. She said they communicated only when necessary, and even then, boundaries were firm. There was sadness in that, but also relief. She explained that distance gave her clarity, and clarity brought peace she hadn't felt in years. Fans responded strongly to that admission, many saying they recognized the relief she described from their own experiences. She spoke about forgiveness, clarifying that it didn't mean reconciliation. Forgiveness, for her, was about releasing herself from the weight of anger, not reopening doors that led to the same pain. She said she could wish someone growth without offering them access to her life again. That perspective marked a turning point in how she viewed the future. Rasheeda hinted at rebuilding, not in terms of romance, but identity. She talked about rediscovering parts of herself that had been buried under compromise and survival. Goals she postponed, passions she muted, boundaries she softened. Reclaiming those pieces felt empowering, even when it was uncomfortable. She said growth often requires discomfort, and she was finally willing to sit with it. As the dust settled slightly, unanswered questions still lingered. The full truth about the alleged marriage remained unclear, and Rasheeda acknowledged that she might never get every answer she wanted. But she also accepted that closure doesn't always come from explanations. Sometimes it comes from deciding you deserve better, even without complete clarity. By the end of her continued reflection, the tone shifted from pain to quiet determination. She wasn't celebrating the end of a chapter, but she wasn't mourning it either. She stood firmly in the space between, aware of what she lost and certain of what she refused to lose again. Fans are shocked by the strength in that stance, recognizing that the drama was no longer just about betrayal, but about transformation. The story, as she made clear, was still unfolding. Emotions remained raw, relationships strained, and public opinion divided. Yet beneath the chaos, there was a sense of resolve that hadn't existed before. Rasheeda wasn't waiting for validation, apologies, or explanations anymore. She had said what needed to be said, and whatever came next would be faced on her terms, with her voice intact and her boundaries unshaken. Now it's your turn to step into this story, because what happens next depends just as much on you as it does on them. You've heard the silence break, you've felt the tension rise, and you've watched the fallout unfold piece by piece. But the biggest questions are still hanging in the air, unanswered and heavy. Was this really the final chapter, or just the calm before an even bigger storm? And if you were in her position, what would you have done differently, if anything at all? As you sit with everything that's been revealed, think about how many moments in this story felt familiar. The loyalty that lasted too long. The doubts that were ignored for the sake of peace. The truth that finally demanded to be heard. Fans are shocked not just because of the alleged betrayal, but because so many see pieces of their own lives reflected in this drama. That's why this conversation matters, and that's why your voice matters too. Do you believe silence is strength, or does it eventually become a cage? Do you think forgiveness always requires access, or can it exist at a distance? These aren't just questions about celebrity drama, they're questions about boundaries, self-worth, and knowing when enough is enough. Emotions ran high throughout this story for a reason, because it touches on realities that go far beyond headlines and rumors. Now ask yourself this. If the truth had never come out, would peace really have been peace, or just quiet pain? And if speaking out brings chaos at first, is the chaos sometimes the price of freedom? The family was left divided, opinions remain split, and not everyone will ever agree on who was right or wrong. But one thing is clear, pretending nothing happened was no longer an option. This is where you come in. Drop your thoughts in the comments and tell us what stood out to you the most. Was it the calm way everything was revealed, or the realization that so many people knew before the truth came out? Do you think there are still details waiting to surface, or do you believe this chapter is finally closing? Your perspective adds another layer to this story, and trust us, people are reading every word. If you're still watching right now, that means this story pulled you in, and you don't want to miss what comes next. Make sure you like this video if you felt the emotion behind every word, because that lets us know you want deeper, more honest stories like this one. Subscribe to the channel so you stay connected as this situation continues to unfold and as more shocking revelations surface. And don't forget to turn on notifications, because if new information drops, you'll want to hear it the moment it happens, not hours later when the internet has already decided how to feel. These stories move fast, opinions shift even faster, and staying informed means staying ahead of the noise. Most importantly, remember this. Drama may entertain, but truth empowers. Whether you agree with every decision or not, the courage to speak after years of silence is something many people struggle to find. If this story made you reflect on your own life, your own boundaries, or your own voice, then it served a purpose beyond entertainment. So keep the conversation going. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, someone who might see themselves in this story and feel less alone because of it. Your support keeps these narratives alive, and your engagement shapes what stories get told next. This chapter may be ending, but the discussion is just beginning. Stay with us, stay vocal, and stay ready, because whatever happens next is guaranteed to spark even more debate, more emotion, and more unanswered questions. And you won't want to miss a single moment of it.